Hello and welcome to Any Given Sunday, Week 4. I'm Coop and this is my friend TJ. He's in hell. We were at Eagles-Rams this week in person, and man, that had to be a brutal way to lose that game.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, that is not the first time I've seen my team lose like that when coming to the East Coast. I went to that Rams-Ravens game in 2023 where they lost to a punt return touchdown.
In overtime, right?
In overtime via
Youch.
Tylan Wallace. Yeah, it's a really tough way to lose, especially when you just feel like when you look at the game play by play, you feel like your team won more plays than the others, and just losing in a way like that really it sucks. But I'm still really happy with how a lot of parts of the team looked, and going into the link nonetheless, and almost coming away with the victory is enough for me against the reigning champs. I know that I've seen a lot of Rams fan pages yelling for Bo Limmer to get cut.
Bo Limmer, who I owe a Christmas card to, by the way.
Bo Limmer is if you don't know, Bo Limmer is the backup center for the Rams. That was unfortunately Steve Avila, the starting left guard, was out. Meaning that Bo Limmer had a lot of had more field time than he would. He came in on a lot of rotational plays for either the backup left guard, Justin Dedich, or Dotson. And in pretty much every single play that he came onto the field, he either blew a blocking assignment or let up a blocked field goal, which ended up losing the game. But I'm sure he'll watch that film. He'll get better. I've got confidence in his ability to bounce back and the Rams to bounce back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Rams' opponent this week is the Indianapolis Colts, and that's a great segue into our headline segment because Daniel Jones, man, what the fuck happened to you? I mean, in the best possible way. I had Daniel Jones in my division for 6 years, right? We played that guy twice a year for 6 years. Not once did he have a performance on par with anything that he's had in the last 3 weeks, including the year the Giants went to the playoffs, which was really Saquon Barkley and the Giants' O-line and the Giants' defense that year. But Indiana Jones, man, he is slinging that thing.
He is. I remember I was watching this. I was watching the film on Daniel and how Daniel Jones was playing this weekend, and the Colts ran a rollout to the left with a crosser going the other way, and Daniel Jones is about to get absolutely decked, and delivers a dime 30 yards down the field to Josh Downs, and that I'm thinking about, is that the same Daniel Jones that fumbled on the 10-yard line with nobody in front of him? Is that the same Daniel Jones?
And the answer is both yes and no, right? Yes, it is physically the same person, but no, it's not the same player. Clearly, that half a season with Kevin O'Connell and the offseason with Shane Steichen, who is really in a lot of ways responsible for the development of Jalen Hurts as well, clearly that benefited Jones in a way that it just hasn't benefited Anthony Richardson. And Daniel Jones was always terrified of pressure. That's part of why the Eagles had so much success against him. If the front four got through or if there was a free rusher, he just panicked. He shit his pants, and that was it. And we are now seeing in real time he will stand tall, he will take the hit, and he will make the throw that he needs to make. And that's a huge credit to him. That's a huge credit to his trainers. Whoever got him ready to do that deserves a lot of credit.
I think it's a huge credit to the organization. I think that the Colts were – I think that they had a lot more confidence in Jones from the start than I think a lot of people did. And I think that that's something that has kind of helped him play the way that he's playing now. He's playing much more composed than he used to, and I love to see it. I love to see the resurgence. Another quarterback resurgence this year seems to be a recent trend. But I love to see it. I'm here for it. And the Colts in general are looking like a true contender, especially in a weak AFC South. How about then on the complete opposite of that spectrum of an offense looking scary was the Falcons' offense this Sunday against the Panthers. It was bad.
Yeah, well, and today, as we're recording this, it came out that they fired their receiver coach and pass game coordinator, TJ Yates, will take over the receiver coaching duties as well. I looked this up because I was curious while I was in class, actually. While I should have been paying attention to the lecture. Stay in school, kids. But Raheem Morris, former Rams defensive coordinator, defensive background as head coach, I was curious what the Super Bowl splits were all time between offensive and defensive head coaches. And I expected it to favor defensive coaches early and offensive coaches the closer we got to the modern day. What I found was that's not actually true. It's about balanced. There are more offensive background head coaches that have won Super Bowls. And I fear, bringing this back to the Falcons, that the floor, while the floor might be lower for an offensive head coach, if a bad offensive head coach or a coach with a bad scheme gets hired, the floor might be lower, but the ceiling is so much higher. Because if you look at even just who the best coaches in the league are, how far down do you have to go before you get to a guy who was primarily a defensive coach? And we're not counting Dan Campbell here because he spent time on both sides of the ball as a coach.
No, Dan Campbell is what I would, along with Nick Sirianni to a level, is I would most definitely consider a culture coach.
Yes.
And those are guys that when they came in, they made a huge impact culturally by acquiring players that fit the idea of a person rather than the idea of a player. And mostly, I think John Harbaugh is a similar coach. But I think that your point about the floor and the ceiling being higher and lower for offensive-minded head coaches is that simply because there are more of them. Because there are simply more offensive-minded head coaches, especially in today's NFL.
There absolutely are more offensive-minded head coaches in the league today. But that came at a point. There was a tipping point around the time, around like 2011 when Cam Newton got drafted, where it went from being either fairly balanced or defensively favored to, fuck it, someone's got to do something. Yeah. And I think the recent analytics movement really ushered that in. And I think the guy that we have to credit for, not necessarily the Sean McVay hire specifically, but a lot of the hires like Sean McVay are Doug Peterson and Sean McVay. Because McVay was an offensive whiz kid and turned the Rams around in a very short period of time. And Doug Peterson proved that you could win a Super Bowl playing the numbers and playing the odds.
Yeah.
And that 2017 team was a team of destiny. You could not put that you could put that roster in that season 100 times and they don't win the Super Bowl 99 of them. But it doesn't matter because they did in this timeline.
They did.
But it's still bringing this back to Atlanta, which is where this all started.
Yeah.
It is concerning to hear and Raheem Morris openly admitted that he got out-coached yesterday or on Sunday. But it's concerning to hear a head coach say that and then say, we're pulling our offensive coordinator from the booth to the field, and then fire the receivers coach. And it's a lot of mid-season shakeup. It's a lot of quarter-season shakeup for a team that really was supposed to be finding its groove this year offensively. And I fear, for as good of a coach as Raheem Morris is, we're going to find out about him what we did about Vic Fangio. Or I was going to say Matt Eberflus, but holy shit, did he get eradicated yesterday. Or modern Bill Belichick, right? Where after Super Bowl 53, Bill Belichick turned into one of the worst coaches in the league because his system stopped working. And he was an awful GM. But it's hard to imagine Raheem Morris making it through the season if there's going to continue to be this much turmoil on his coaching staff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that coaches that have come from the McVay tree, obviously the most successful has been Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell has completely invigorated Minnesota with passion and a true hope to win a Super Bowl and a true possibility to win a Super Bowl at that. Brandon Staley back with the Chargers was terrible. Raheem Morris, I think I agree with you when you say that if there continues to be this much turmoil throughout the season on the coaching staff, it's hard to see him not on the hot seat next year. I don't think he'll be out of Atlanta after this season, but I think if there continues to be this much turmoil, he will be on the hot seat next year.
Well, and it's worth mentioning comparative value-wise, right? Because let's say you have a great defensive coach, which theoretically Dan Quinn is, although we'll find out, I guess, as the season goes on. But let's say you have a great – actually, Mike McDonald is a great example. Say you have a great defensively minded head coach. If the Seahawks offense – and granted, they were playing the Saints. But if they play like they did this past week going forward, Mike McDonald's going to lose his offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And then what? Then he has to replace him, right? And this has been the problem with the Eagles the last couple of years, is Nick Sirianni can't call plays. And
did you find out if he ended up calling?
No, Kevin Patullo. So actually, the official quote from Sirianni was something to the effect of, Kevin was calling the plays in the second half, but make no mistake, Jalen was out there communicating, which means Kevin Patullo called the offense, but no, he didn't. Jalen Hurts did, which is really funny.
So we had a question at halftime, or I think it was around the third quarter.
It was around the third quarter.
Around the third quarter, we started asking. We were like, it would be really funny if Nick Sirianni took the offensive play calling in the second half, because the Eagles' offense, if you guys didn't watch the game or watch the highlights, the Eagles' offense looked completely different from a personality standpoint to an executional standpoint. The Philadelphia offense looked very, very different in the second half.
Jalen Hurts put up like 205 passing yards just in the second half.
Because it was -1 net passing yards in the first half. But anyway, yeah, I think that Raheem Morris is very much so being tested as a head coach. Does he have what it takes to be a head coach? Can he bounce back? Can he get his players to bounce back? Because at the end of the day, when you lose a football game on Sunday, you have to bounce back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and be able to play again with a clear slate the following week.
And that really is the head coach's job is, hey, losses suck. We've got another game. Let's go 1-0 this week.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Because the loss to Tampa in week 1 sucked. It sucks to lose on a walk-off. But then you turn around and beat the shit out of Brian Flores, one of the best defensive minds in the sport. And now, granted, Flores was missing his number one linebacker, and it's a scheme that very heavily relies on linebackers. But to turn around and lose that game, and I like the Panthers a lot more than I know you do, and than I think a lot of other people do. I like what the Panthers have to offer as a team. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I think that they could be competitive for the division next year.
Maybe.
And they're based on where I expected the Falcons to be and where I expected the Panthers to be. Could the Panthers beat the Falcons? Sure, yeah, absolutely. Divisional games are weird. The Panthers are better than a lot of people give them credit for. Should the Panthers have been able to blow out and shut out?
Yeah. First shutout of the season wasn't an upset and a blowout shutout at that.
A 30-0 shellacking. And it raises concerns about the defense in Atlanta, which is Raheem Morris's job. It raises questions about the offense, which is not Raheem Morris's job. But it raises questions about the team because it seemed like at certain points, based on what I watched, the Falcons just gave up.
Yeah.
And kind of let it come at a certain point.
Yeah. And to just kind of try to segue into the final highlight from last week is that the Chargers and the culture that Jim Harbaugh and the confidence that Jim Harbaugh has brought to the Chargers, it looks really good.
It does.
I thought it looked good last year, and I think that they are picking up, not from where they left off because they threw, 5 interceptions in that playoff game last year?
I think it was 4. It's bad. Either way, it's bad.
But the Jim Harbaugh Chargers are looking good to start the year. They're 3-0, and they are looking like a favorite for the AFC West.
Well, and that's really weird, right? Because did I expect the Chargers to be better this year? Yes, absolutely. Just kidding. I actually had them finishing 4th in the division. Because I thought that they didn't get meaningfully – this was before they had signed Keenan Allen. But I thought that they didn't get meaningfully better at the skill positions and, in fact, thought that they regressed at specifically the running back position. And so far, that part's actually true. What I didn't expect was Keenan Allen to return to prime form, Quentin Johnson to learn how to fucking catch, and Ladd McConkey, the leading receiver on the Chargers last year, to be 3rd in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns on the team this year. And I will give an immense amount of credit to Justin Herbert, who I was very harsh on in the offseason. He's shutting me the fuck up. And I still need to see it in the postseason because I've seen him be great in the regular season before. I still need to see it in the playoffs. But being great in the playoffs doesn't necessarily mean you walk away with a win. At the end of the day, it is a team sport, right? Being great in the playoffs means you don't choke a 33-7 lead to the fucking Jaguars or throw 4 interceptions against the Texans defense when their offense can't stop Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that about Justin Herbert. I mean, a huge comeback like that can never be pinned on one player.
No,
that wasn't just Justin Herbert's fault because if the defense gets one more stop, if
he makes one more pass,
if the running game is a little bit more consistent, there are so many different factors that play into a big comeback like that, and it's really difficult for me to pin against one person. You know, I don't like doing that.
Yeah,
we've talked enough ball for you to know that about me. But in that, you can't throw 4 interceptions in a playoff game. But we'll see. Assuming the Chargers make the playoffs this year, we'll see what that offense looks like with Herbert at the helm. Hopefully,
that is going to wrap up the shortest of the videos. God, I hope I have it out tomorrow. But we will have the unedited version of the podcast over on the Vodcast channel, which is linked down in the description below as soon as I get it to you. That'll be out later today when this goes live, if it's not already up. We will have the longer edited version of the podcast out on Thursday. So, yeah, looking forward to that. And we will see anyone who is not watching those videos next week